listening to The Review on the OSG Sports Podcasting Network.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Review. It's the Online Sports Guys College Football Podcast, where we talk about everything college football, featuring us, the Online Sports Guys. And guys, we're going to kind of keep this episode focused a little bit on Championship Saturday and the college football playoff, because there's quite honestly a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I want to talk about John Carroll and Mount Union, so let's go.
For all 10 of you listening about that, yes, we will talk in detail about it. Guys, championship weekend proved to have a few surprises up its sleeve. We were not expecting Duke to beat Virginia.
Give me the chaos.
And yet it happened.
And Duke's first ACC title since '89, when Steve Spurrier was the head coach.
And somehow they still were 7-5 and will not be in the college football playoff. While the ACC will be represented, easy for me to say, they will not be represented by the conference champion. That team in will be the Miami Hurricanes, which we'll talk about in a minute, how they got in. And Duke will be on the outside looking in. A little bit of a surprise Saturday night when Indiana took down Ohio State. Were you guys
I'm not surprised.
expecting that one?
I expected it. I got to be honest. Indiana looks like the most complete team out there. And
Yes.
they proved it to me again against Ohio State. And, hey, as far as I'm concerned, Mendoza, he just solidified that he's going to be taking the Stiff Arm Trophy home with him with that performance in the second half. He absolutely sucked in the first half.
He did.
But in the second half, against the elite defense of college football, he proved that he's a elite quarterback against that defense. But some of the throws he made on the run were fantastic. And now I was a little surprised it was a low scoring game. I thought it would be a little more in the 30s at least. But and this game should not have been played inside. It should have been played outdoors with mud hanging off their jerseys. But no, impressive win by Indiana. No, I wasn't surprised that Indiana took the Big Ten title.
Take it, Sly.
Yeah, they sort of use the same model that Michigan has used the past few years. Keep it low scoring, make Ohio State make some decisions. And this was the first time all year they really didn't dictate the terms of the game flow. And you saw when they were forced to make some decisions, they made some bad ones. And then they messed up the field goal. And 13-10 reminds me a lot of the last couple of years of the Michigan-Ohio State games.
Yeah, it's funny. I was friendly kidding Marty about Ohio State not really playing a whole lot of competition on their level over the course of the season, but that is something that played out here. They hadn't been pushed. They really hadn't been pushed by anybody over the course of the season, other than maybe their first game at Texas, but the first game doesn't really count.
Well, true.
Wait, hang on. Hang on.
I don't know what Marty's attitude is, since he's a little under the weather and couldn't join us. But I ran into a couple of Ohio State fans that are friends of mine this morning at church, and their attitude was, yeah, well, it would be Michigan. So that they're in the playoff, that's really all that matters to Ohio State right now. They beat Michigan. They're in. They didn't beat Indiana. Okay, so be it. We're in the playoff anyway. And they're by the way, they're the favorite. Yeah, as long as they beat Michigan, they're fine.
It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Indiana, they get in as the number 1 seed in the playoff by virtue of that win.
They're the flipping champs. Come on now.
And should things play the way they are, they will get the winner of the Oklahoma-Alabama first-round playoff game. A rematch game at that. And we'll talk about Alabama here in a second. It'll be interesting to see them play Oklahoma. And yeah, what Wilkie said before, Indiana, arguably looking at what they've done, their track record this season and their performance last night, that might be the very most complete team in college football because they can win however you want to play it.
And they don't make mistakes.
Hmm. And if you had asked this question probably 10 years ago and said, what do you think the chances are a decade from now that we'd be talking about Indiana A winning the Big Ten and B being the number one seed in the playoff with a really legitimate shot at winning a national championship?
I'd ask if
I,
you were on cold medicine.
I'd ask if you're talking men's basketball.
That's what I was going to say too. Absolutely.
And that's the most fascinating part about it to me. And don't get me wrong, I'm not selling short the wonderful coaching job that Kurt Signetti's done. He's done a great job.
You're a tremendous slouch. Come on now.
But I don't think anybody could have predicted this, especially when you think about just the last two seasons before this. They didn't even make they didn't make a bowl game.
Well,
What's happened at Indiana is like 1 in 1,000 or 1 in a million. Go ahead, John.
well, you remember they had that one good year when Michael Penix was on as
Mhm.
a quarterback, and we talked about it. What was that? 5 years ago, on 6 years ago on College Football X.
Yeah.
So yeah, Indiana went back to being Indiana football. It's Kirk Signetti. The guy just wins wherever he is. The man has the golden touch. Coaching. He's got the papal blessing from Nick Saban or something like that, and he's taken a program like Indiana, which has had little to no football success. And the only success I can remember was back when Bill Mallory was the head coach with Anthony Thompson,
Yeah.
and that was a mediocre Indiana team at best.
Terry Hepner in play 13.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and
Frank Green.
Trent Green, yeah, and here they are, Big Ten champions, undefeated, number one seed going into the playoff, and to me, that's Kirk Signetti. Just how he can not only evaluate talent, but how he can coach them up and keep them together. That is a special coach in Indiana called lightning in a bottle when they hired him.
And they've also invested. It's like they are investing in the program also. I mean, we've seen it with
Yep.
Texas Tech where they're investing in their program, and literally it's like their oil money and your oil money and maybe John Hamm's oil money from from Landman over on
Man,
Paramount Plus. It's like they're throwing all of that stuff at it. But you're seeing the investment now that IU is on the football side of things with the TV revenue that is the conference is bringing in and all the other investments that they're making. And so right now, this business that is IU football is very, very successful. And they've rewarded Signetti with the contract extension and
yeah.
they're investing in players and you're seeing the end result.
And I guess the question I still have, and we talked about this a minute ago, what is it with Ohio State in games like this that they always seem to they find a way to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory? It's happened time and time again. Whenever they've gotten pushed, they got the Michigan hex off of them this year, but they had lost previously 4 straight times to Michigan when Michigan wasn't necessarily on the same level. And with the exception of last season, they've never been able to actually win that big game in the clutch.
You can say that all you want, Phil, but you know what? They have a silver lining every time. When they lost to Michigan, they still got into the playoff,
Hmm.
got hot, and won the whole thing. This year, what's the matter? I mean, they lost the Big Ten title game, but they still got a bye in the playoff. So, yeah, you can say that they stubbed their toe at the wrong time, but it doesn't really affect them.
I'm
No,
curious to see if it'll affect them as things progress within the playoff.
Can I throw in one thing since Marty isn't here?
Uh-huh.
On a broader level, Phil, you've been dead right all year saying that the Big Ten is not that good overall. And the reality is they're not. And Ohio State and traditionally Michigan have gotten a free pass in a lot of ways, and they don't get pushed in many games. And they're not as battle tested. I mean, they have elite talent, but they are not put in these situations that often. And sometimes they just blink, and they certainly did last night. So
The two Big Ten teams that are arguably on their level this season, Indiana and Oregon, they didn't play either one.
no.
So here's the rundown of the Ohio State schedule. 9-0, 12-1. Here's what it was. You win by 7 against Texas. And that was game number 1. 70 on Grambling. You win by 28 over Ohio U. You win by 18 over Washington, 24-6. You beat Minnesota 42-3. You go to Illinois, sorry, Sly, 34-16. You go to Wisconsin. Wisconsin's not very good. You shut them out 34-0. Penn State, not very good. You win by 24. Purdue, not very good. You win by 24. UCLA, not very good. They fired their coach. Win by 38. Rutgers, not very good. You win by 33. Michigan, you win by 18. And then you end up with the Indiana game. So the margins of victory there this year, and I mean, you look at, let's see, so the highest rated, the highest in the Big Ten standings, the highest team that you played was the school up north who finished 7-2, 9-3. Washington 5-4, 8-4. Illinois 5-4, 8-4. Minnesota 5-4, 7-5. UCLA 3-6, 3-9. Penn State 3-6, 6-6. Rutgers 2-7, 5-7. Wisconsin 2-7, 4-8, and Purdue 0-9, 2-10. Did I miss anybody?
A sea of mediocrity.
Yep.
Yeah.
More
And
like
that's been my point all along.
like a C- of mediocrity at this point.
Which is not to say that they can't run the table in the playoffs,
No.
because they most certainly can, but they're not battle tested.
When you have these players and these rosters, and I've seen it the last couple of weeks on different levels other than college, if you've got a team that is gangbusters and they're blowing everybody up and they're ranked highly, you're not getting players that are playing full games. They're not playing 60 minutes. They're not, and so you can bring in guys in shifts, you can do whatever, but when you have to have your number ones playing that full 60 minutes, how are they going to respond at like minute 42 through 46 to 60? How are they going to respond when they've had to go a place where they haven't had to go physically before? So I have no doubt, and we are not piling on Marty and Ohio State because he's not here, but I have no doubt that Ohio State and their coaching staff will adjust in each of the games that they are in when we come into the CFP. It's just, I think that when you have all of these blowouts and you're not tested, you're not ready for that full 60. And then Indiana came in and they were ready for that full 60, and you see the end result.
Yeah, speaking of teams that face challenges over the course of the season, the Georgia Bulldogs are arguably the opposite of Ohio State, playing a not a great, but a fairly tough schedule with some good games mixed in. And if you ask me right now, I would say that Georgia and Indiana are the two teams that are the two best teams heading into the playoffs, because the Bulldogs have gotten better, particularly in the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season. They've gotten better each week.
What you want, though, you're building toward that.
Yeah.
You're building toward that progression. And early on in the year, where Georgia is concerned, I still think that the coaching staff at Georgia is troubleshooting. It's like, okay, what can we do in these situations? And we'll figure it out. We'll eventually do enough to win. But, you know, if there's a down and distance, what are our go-to plays? You figure that out early in the year. And we talked about it all season long, much like when it comes to the point spreads and the juice boxes, much like shingles, Kirby doesn't care. And it's like you win. Bottom line is you win, you go to the next. Win, you go to the next. Win, you go to the next. It's not pretty, see, Oklahoma, ... But you see what you have with Georgia, and Georgia is peaking and trying to peak as you get into the SEC championship game and into the postseason. That's what you want in these situations. You don't want to peak too soon. You want to troubleshoot so you're ready for that sprint in the playoffs.
Yeah, you made some good points there, John, that I completely agree with. You know, as far as being on the level with Indiana, I put Texas Tech up there. Georgia is a team that you just don't want to see in your bracket because Kirby Smart is the best in-game coach in college football. He knows, what the situation is, where the momentum is going, and he can go into his bag of tricks or into his computer there, and he knows how to call the right play, especially defensively. And to me, Georgia's that team that they're not as impressive as they've been in the last couple of years. Nobody on that team really scares you, but when you get them on the field and start playing them, then you get then the pucker factor is much higher because again, Georgia just knows the situation, doesn't panic, and executes, especially in the second half and in the fourth quarter. As a fourth quarter team, Georgia, if you don't have a lead
They
on Georgia, forget about it
Mm-hmm.
because Georgia is going to milk the clock. They're going to make enough big plays because they probably have already scouted that out in the third quarter. I mean, that's an excellent staff as far as in-game coaching.
Mm-hmm.
So while Georgia's probably not up there with Indiana, in my opinion, Texas Tech, as far as team-wise, I don't want to see them in my bracket because they do all the right things in game. And yes, they do just enough to win, but now they're in the playoff. I'm interested to see if they're just going to let their hair down and let it go. Because if they do that, then you're talking about a team that could make a very deep run.
Based on what we saw Saturday night, that may very well be what happens because they came out of the blocks hot against a pretty good Alabama team, and Alabama never had a chance.
Well, they had a great game plan on Ty Simpson. That's
Yeah,
for sure. Defensive game plan. They didn't let him get comfortable. They let him get comfortable the first time around. This time it wasn't going to happen, and they sustained that uncomfortable
the entire game.
approach to Ty Simpson, and he's going to have to make some adjustments when they go up against Oklahoma.
Yeah, because
Well,
Oklahoma,
that's
as good as Georgia's defense is, Oklahoma's is arguably better, and we'll talk about that matchup here in a couple of minutes.
a
The winner,
quick thing about Alabama. John Nelson last week with his report after the Auburn game laid out the game plan that was going to work against Ty Simpson and Georgia, executed it perfectly. So they're listening to the show.
They're listening to the show.
I
Damn it!
didn't know he's on the Georgia payroll.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have scouts everywhere. They listen to all of the program. They listen to all of the programs. They assimilate all the information into a spreadsheet. I'm sure goes into Kirby's office like first thing, Monday morning or Monday lunch, and it's like, okay, what are the trends? Okay, trends say A, B, C, D, and E. Okay, so we'll work on those things. That's probably what they did. All about us. Come on now.
Georgia, your number 3 seed, they will get the winner of the Ole Miss Tulane quarterfinal matchup, which again should be a pretty interesting game for a variety of reasons, both on and off the field.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on down the list, Wilkie mentioned them a few minutes ago. The Texas Tech Red Raiders, arguably the best team that nobody's heard of in major conference football, because if you haven't seen them play, it's worth your time to watch.
Mm-hmm.
They do everything well. They do it very, very well. Got to watch a little bit of their game this past weekend against BYU. That defense is loaded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very much so. Thank you.
The offense does enough to get the win. Baron Morton is back and healthy again, and with him back in the fold, they just keep scoring points. Um, yeah, they too could be one of those teams that runs the table and wins this. But by the time it's all over, you turn around and say, "Wait, what happened? How did Texas Tech won?" Yep, that's exactly what they did.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's the thing about Texas Tech that I love about them. You mentioned it, Phil, their defense. It's a Big 12 team that can make the key defensive stops, and they can knock you backwards. Just look at what they did against BYU. Although
Mm,
Bear Bachmeier was hobbled in that game, and I think that affected BYU quite a bit. Doesn't matter. I mean, it's the second blowout win they've had over the Cougars. But that's to me what's impressive about Texas Tech. And the more and more I watch them, the more and more I see this team making it to the title game. They're like Indiana, man. They have they're just complete. And if they meet in the semifinal, or I guess they'd meet in the semis, yeah, they'll meet. If they meet in the semis, that will be epic.
Yep.
That would be definitely appointment television to watch Texas Tech and Indiana, and two really coaches that you never would think would be on the elite level that are now there with their teams.
the most
If serve
unexpected best game
holds,
you never would have thought you would talk about.
Yeah, I mean, if Serve holds in that end of the bracket, on the upper part of the bracket, that's going to be an epic game.
Yeah, I really like Texas Tech. They will be facing the winner of the Oregon James Madison game, which should be a whole different spectacle unto itself. And yeah, I could say this now, going the winner of that game playing Texas Tech. I think Texas Tech has the advantage over either one of them coming off a first round bye. A big
All right,
advantage.
all right. So we're talking James Madison, Oregon now, huh?
We'll get through the lower
He,
matchups there.
he,
One of the
he
All right.
wants to get through the present tense before the B block is the future tense, is what he
That's all
yes.
right. That's all right. Well, I can wait.
Yes. Speaking of the Oregon Ducks, they are your number 5 seed. They finished the regular season 11-1. They were not in the Big Ten championship game. Um, the Ducks, I've seen them play a couple of times, and they look on the surface at least like a typical Oregon team, but they weren't as successful when it came to making the big clutch plays. They did enough to get wins. They didn't blow people out by 70-7 like the previous iteration of them
They're,
did.
but they're young, Phil. I mean, they have gone through a graduation cycle, and you're having a lot of underclassmen assuming these roles in skill positions, and so
Plus,
yes,
Dante Moore has a little bit of a different skill set
mm-hmm,
than the quarterback they had last year.
mm-hmm.
Hmm.
And yeah, and to John's point, yeah, they've had some personnel changes, so they've had to adjust on that, and it takes a while for that to gel. And I think it did for Oregon. They're not the impressive Duck team as of last year. I really don't see any signature wins there either. But again, they're still good. They're still dangerous. I love it. I love the way Dan Lanning coaches that team. So yeah, they deserve to have a home game.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, but the Ducks will be losing both their offensive and their defensive coordinator after this season. After the playoff is over, both of them got head coaching jobs in the
Mm-hmm.
most previous coaching carousel cycle.
Thank you for putting the word coaching in there in that sentence.
Thank you very well. Thank you very much. I
Mm-hmm.
try.
Yes.
Oregon's really their biggest win of the season was over USC. The other game they played against the top team was Indiana, and Indiana kind of blew them out.
I mean, that's why you're the 5 right now. I'm intrigued, but once again, I mentioned younger players and younger teams. These freshmen are no longer freshmen. They're playing more like sophomores, and so on and so on. Sophomores playing more like juniors. Juniors playing more like seniors. Experienced guys that were back in the depth chart now that are starting. They're used to that starting idea. So I am intrigued, but I am equally intrigued about how Kenny Chesney is going to be coaching James Madison in that game.
Or Bob Chesney, because Kenny would be performing a concert
He'd be
at that
performing
time.
at halftime.
That's what I'm saying. Yes.
Yes, their first round game against James Madison, a December 20th game, should be good TV. It's on TNT at 7:30 kickoff.
Mm-hmm.
Your number 16.
All right, all right.
He's using his first time out, I think.
Why the hell is James Madison in this tournament?
We'll get to that in a second. We're going to get to
All right.
He wants to blow through the matchups first before we get into the
Yeah, I'm
I
kind of
got
making
you.
my way
I
down
got
the
you.
seating list here.
I got you. Well, I just gave you a teaser.
There you go.
Okay. We will continue with the number 16, the Ole Miss Rebels. They finished the regular season 11-1. They did not make their conference championship game in the SEC, but arguably were the second or third best team in the SEC this year. However, they will be playing with a new head coach.
But he's still your defensive coordinator, though. So it's not like somebody completely and totally foreign who was named out of the blue. And it's like, oh, hey, you in the Grove, do you want to be the new head coach? Yeah, come on in. No, it's your defensive coordinator, well liked among the players. If you saw the video that was leaked out when they made the announcement, so I think that you'll have continuity. And I thought that if you hopped on the plane to go to Baton Rouge, you weren't allowed back. But
Except for when you were.
Except for Charlie Weiss Jr.
Charlie Weiss Jr., so I'm still trying to figure the round trip out. So
Yeah, there were a lot of things said in that whole dispute. Some that were truthful, some that were not truthful, and some that were pretty gross exaggerations.
see press conference dash Lane Kiffin, yes, and subsequent releases to social media by the Mississippi State Police.
Yes. And we won't get too deep into the coach who we just named, who is now the head coach of a team that is not playing in the playoff, and for good reason.
Mm-hmm.
Ole
Because they're
Miss,
family. Yes.
Ole Miss, a very good football team. I
Absolutely.
really liked the development of Trinidad Chambliss. He's an excellent quarterback.
Harris State, #1 team in Division II. Don't short shrift anybody just because of the division they play in.
And has a chance to win his second national championship in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It'll be
He could be a trivia question.
I mean,
Who's the only quarterback that won Division II and next year Division I national title?
Mm-hmm.
coming soon to a sports trivia
That should at least
contest
get him in the
near
College
you.
Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I mean that's like the 432s from the 1960s. Yeah, so no, that's right.
Ole Miss could score with anybody in this tournament. The defense is a little bit questionable at times. They've got beat by a Georgia team that ran the ball down their throat. So
stopping the run has been their issue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's been their Achilles heel. Will be interesting to see how that plays out in the opening round matchup. Your number 7 team, the Texas A&M Aggies, they are 11-1. They lost on the last week of the regular season to the Texas Longhorns.
Mm-hmm. I have no idea what any of that means. I've just seen it.
Yeah, A&M had a great regular season.
Mm-hmm.
They played extremely well. They're a dangerous team. They're fast.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a good quarterback.
Marcel Reed.
A lot of things really well, but they played their best football at the beginning of the season, guys.
Mm-hmm. No, that South Carolina game showed me the character of that Aggie team. So this team is full of character. I don't read much into the Texas loss because it is a rivalry game, and if anybody's knows about the Texas A&M rivalry, it is bitter. It is it's family versus family, and look, Texas may have had the year that they had, but they played their Super Bowl against the Aggies because that's their main rival and their main in-state rival, and they got it done in Austin. So I don't read much into that loss to Texas. That's a rivalry game. That and games at the beginning of the year, they're crapshoots.
Yeah, they've been prone all season long to big plays. It'll be interesting to see what happens because their first round matchup is the 10th seed Miami Hurricanes, a team known for their big plays.
I'm abstaining from this part of the conversation.
And we'll talk a little bit about them in a second. We'll go through one last team here before we hit halftime. And in the second half, we'll kind of go through everything else. Your number 8 seed, the Oklahoma Sooners, they finished the regular season 10-2, and they will have a first round matchup with the Alabama Crimson Tide, SEC matchup all the way. They play on a Friday night on ABC. Oklahoma is a team that I don't question them being there, but I question how far they're going to go, and not because they don't play defense. Their defense is arguably, if not the best, one of the top 5 defenses in the country. Their Achilles heel is offense.
Yes, it is your Achilles heel and their Achilles heel, and you like 19 people in the stands. It's their Achilles heels too. That's how far behind it is. I'm just going to say this about that 8-9. Take the under.
Yeah, I suspect that's going to be a pretty low scoring game.
Sly, it's going to be one of those B1G numbers like we see out of Iowa City.
You would think so. I mean, Oklahoma plays a style that really isn't used that much, and at least this year they've used that style.
You mean boring people to death?
Yeah, I mean Iowa does it, as you said, but it works. They've got the personnel for it. They beat Michigan. that was maybe the key game of the year to knock Michigan out and keep them in. So until someone can actually score on them, they've got a legit shot to win the first game, and then we'll see what happens.
All they need to do is this: if they keep the other guy, off the board.
Yeah, that defense will
field
keep them
goals.
competitive with just about anybody. The question is, will they be able to score?
Yeah.
8-9 matchups are fun, aren't they? Even in the men's basketball tournament.
Yeah.
And if if the wind's blowing off the plains in late December in
Ooh.
Norman, Oklahoma, and it's in the 20s, I mean, that's going to be great television. And I've been to Norman and that time of year when it's when it's cold as hell, and that's where the defense and the grinded out offense is going to really help the Sooners. But yeah, you guys touched on the defense. It is elite. It is good. That's Brett Venables'
It says Brenton Butter.
that's how he makes his money.
It says
Yep,
Brenton
it's his
Butter.
calling card.
Yeah.
Yep.
It'll be interesting to see. Guys, I'm going to go to the half here as we kind of run out of time here in the first block of the show. When we come back in the second half of the show,
We get to yell at each
talk
other.
about the 3 teams left in your 12-team playoff, all of whom have some question marks. Some could be deserving, some couldn't be deserving. We'll get into that, and we'll look ahead at the upcoming playoff games. All that more, we return for the second half of the review. You are listening to the review on the OSG Sports Podcasting Network.
Please like and subscribe. We're going to yell at each other next.
Thanks for sticking around, everybody. You have made it to the second half of the show. Guys,
You made it. You made it.
we got through the first 8 teams in the college football playoff and talked briefly about matchups. We're going to kind of finish out that list and talk matchup games in the first round here in just a second. Your number 9 seed, and this is the one where I at least I have some questions.
Oh, yeah.
I understand why they're there. I don't think they're deserving of being there, and that's the Alabama Crimson Tide, your number 9 seed.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts?
Mm-hmm.
Who goes above them?
Miami, Notre Dame.
Oh my! Here we go. All right. State your case, counselor. Go. Just I'm gonna defer for a moment. I'm just gonna let you state your case. I'm just go. Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying Alabama's a bad team. I'm not saying they're not worthy of a consideration for the playoff. But are they really that much? Are they any better than a 3-loss Texas team at this point?
Yes.
Yes.
Are they better than a 2-loss Miami team? Are they better than a 2-loss Notre Dame team that's run the table since their first 2 losses of the season?
No, and kind of. Notre Dame and Miami, and Wilkie, because I know, Wilkie, you're going to go on a riff here, but I'll just say this. Notre Dame and Miami, according to the 4 lead metrics that the committee had, were practically identical.
Yep.
And then you go into the head-to-head matchup, which was, I think it was like week +2 or whenever that.
Yeah, it was early in the year when everybody's forgotten that.
Yeah, so it's like August 27th or something like that. And so that was their metric for putting Miami above Notre Dame.
Yeah, they rewatched the game.
Yeah. But it was a game from August 27th.
Yeah.
Right.
And
They
August
rewatched the
26th.
game and made their decision that, okay, Miami won the head-to-head. Miami deserves to get in. Look, Alabama didn't do anything to really hurt themselves.
What?
Other than lose to Florida State at the beginning of the year. And
That's kind of a
pretty
big
much
one.
forgotten. I mean, that was back in August.
I'd forget.
And they had some solid wins. The Georgia win was probably what put them in the back in October was what put them in the playoff.
Oh,
And-
unquestionably.
And then don't discount brand name.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, they've got the brand name. They didn't do anything to stub their toe other than lose the SEC championship game, but that wasn't going to hurt them either. So yes, they deserve to be in, and I think they've got look. It's an 8-9 matchup. What the punishment is they got to play a league rival on the road. And it's an 8-9. So, what favor did Alabama get? I mean, it's still like being the 12th seed if you're an SEC school. I mean, they've got a tough road because if they get by Oklahoma, then they got to go to Bloomington, or not Bloomington, Indiana, but they got to play Indiana, and you know they deserve to be in, but they got the toughest road.
I go for it.
Knowing that there was no way to spin their way out of putting Notre Dame in the field, it seemed a bit revolutionary that they would exclude Alabama and Notre Dame
Yeah,
at this stage of the playoff. But I agree with you, Wilkie, that like if you look at the way the college basketball tournament is run, if you take a team with more losses but who's played a tough schedule from a big league, they usually wind up in the 8-9 game, just like Alabama did, and say, okay, your record is as good, so you're gonna have to earn your way through, and sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. So Alabama certainly played a rough schedule, won some, lost some, but there's no way that both they and Notre Dame are going to be left out.
So then explain this, and I will put this to the floor. So BYU, who ends up as, and I will preface all of this argument by saying, I had Alabama in the 12. It was just going to be the where. Brand name for me was a number one. To me, it was, wins and losses were somewhat secondary. So 1A brand name, 1B wins and losses. So if you have a team like BYU, who was the second out, I believe. Yeah, BYU was second out. So you have a team like BYU who plays Texas Tech in a conference championship game. Texas Tech takes care of business, BID''NESS. BYU loses. Presumably that's why they're out. So they lose their conference championship game to the eventual number 4. Dominant performance by that number 4 team. BYU second team out. So then explain to me why a team that was in a game that was as dominant by the team that beat them, except on the scoreboard, how you do not drop in the standings in the overall. And like I said, I'm prefacing this by saying they should be in the 12. I'm saying this. But so you lose your game when the team that beat you was dominant in that win, and they eventually end up as the number 3 seed. So then Hunter Yurachek says that in the interviews as this is going on, that losing in a conference championship game affected BYU. So losing in the SEC conference championship game, you would have thought would have affected the positioning of Alabama, yet it didn't. There's look, you're crossing the streams here. It's like what side are we discussing here in all of this? That to me is one of the big indicators in all of this. So you lose your conference championship game.
I brought it up.
Dominant. BYU gets blown out. Alabama, who I figured was going to be in, loses their championship game dominant fashion, doesn't move. That to me is the larger issue in all of this when you're discussing those two teams. And when the head of the committee says losing mattered for one team, but then you discuss another team that doesn't move in the rankings in the overall, and it doesn't matter to them when they lose in a dominant fashion, I'm thoroughly confused.
Well, the committee, the future committees have got to figure out what's a bad loss, what's a good loss. Maybe they got to go to the quad system like college basketball has gone to. For BYU, they lost to Texas Tech twice, and they were dominated both times.
Yeah.
And this to me screams of not passing the eye test on a head-to-head in the conference.
You're clearly not on that level.
Yes, and I can defend Hunter Yurachek there with not letting BYU in, because this is their second chance at Texas Tech. And ironically, they played both games within the state borders, say Texas borders, and they got blown out both times. With Alabama and Georgia, remember Alabama won it at Athens, and then come back to Georgia within the state borders again and lose in dominant fashion. Maybe there's some kind of again a quad system like men's college basketball has for their tournament to determine which teams get in. What's a quality win? What's a quality loss? What's a bad loss? I mean, those things need to be defined in the future, especially if you're going to not move Alabama after losing to Georgia the second in the SEC title game, and you do have BYU free fall a little bit, losing to Texas Tech.
So quality win for Alabama, and Sly, I'll send it to you after this. So quality win for Alabama, knocking off Florida State, who is still a top 35 team. Don't ask me why that's a quality win. But it's a quality win early in the year. And once again, we could carry this argument with Notre Dame and Miami. Quality win for Alabama over Florida State. You get the quality win with Georgia in Athens, but then you lose late. And so I'm also thinking that into your quad
Time is everything.
it's gonna that's it. You're gonna have to figure out, okay, quality win early versus quality loss late or quality win late. And look, I'm gonna need a roadmap for this. Rand McNally might have to sponsor this thing going forward. Sly. I'm thoroughly confused.
Yeah, and
The interesting part about this year is that if you had a 4-team playoff, there would be little argument who those 4 teams would be.
that is
Yeah.
true.
And if you had a 16-team playoff,
Team
you could
17
have gotten in Notre Dame, Texas, Vanderbilt, and BYU. That would have
Could
also
be in.
12 was probably the worst number that could have been involved here. But that with the constraints of how the format was going to be, they boxed themselves in and had to make a call, and
It's
that's the call they made for all the reasons we've talked about.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a subjective system based on opinions. And how I said this to Sly before we got started. However many teams you have in this playoff, with it being subjective, there's always going to be a couple of teams that feel like they should be in and aren't.
You have 68 teams in the men's basketball tournament, and they're still bitching and moaning.
Yep, team 69 and 70 will always complain. You're never going to win.
And they're
with that.
usually mediocre.
Yeah, when North Carolina got in last year, there was the biggest outcry you can imagine.
Yep.
So,
Mhm. Yep.
I would maintain that to your collective point that no active administrator should be a part of the college football playoff committee.
Because they have a vested interest in it.
Yes, because I can guarantee you, Wilkie, that as folks are looking over camera right shoulder, your camera left, that I would venture to guess that the individual that is associated with that university has the vested interest of the Southeastern Conference when it comes to his discussion points. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I agree.
A lot of money involved there.
Right. And so I would my first thing, first off, this is the excuse to expand it to 16. And I know that there are other things that we have to get into quickly, but this is the excuse to get it to 16 in a hurry. And also for me, once again, I need your glossary to figure out your terms of quality wins, losses, conference game losses, those kinds of things. I need that glossary squared away. But to me, it's almost like that moving target game that you play at the county fair with the rigged BB gun and the ducks that go like this when you're trying to figure out, okay, what is it? You hit it.
Rigged BB gun.
It is. It's a rigged BB gun.
I know.
Like take
County
the
fair.
ring toss game where you're trying to find it and go around the Coke bottle. That's what you're chasing here with this thing.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting conversation here. Your number 10 seed in the playoff, the Miami Hurricanes, a team that actually going into the week this past weekend, most of their fans thought that they were done for. They weren't going to make it. And yet here they are. They're the number 10 seed. They'll play Texas Tech in their playoff opener on December 20th at noon. I could see them getting in, but at the same time, I could see them not being worthy as well.
Boy, does that win over Notre Dame back in August weigh heavily with the Hurricanes, because the committee rewatched the game and made their decision from that win.
And I don't think either one of those teams are the same team now that they were
No,
then.
they're not.
No, but apparently it's a quality win when it's early in the season and you're having to figure out where to place teams from 8 and below.
I look at it this way. They had to take the ACC, and they're going to take a brand name.
Yep.
I mean, come on. I mean, Duke is God love Duke. I mean, they win their first ACC title in since '89, and they can't make the playoff, and which goes to the whole argument: are these conference championship games even worth playing if you're title if you're
Financially, yes, they are.
well financially, yeah, but so what? I mean, did you see how many people were in Charlotte last night?
Oh,
I
Well,
mean, come on.
the
I mean,
contrast there,
they
the
must have
contrast there
broken
is the
even.
Indiana game and the Georgia game both were packed.
mhm.
And so was the Texas Tech BYU game.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it was filled to capacity. Yeah, the checks were flowing into the conference coffers, but in the ACC, they were probably lucky to break even. Um, but again, this just screams not only that, but really, where is the focus right now in the ACC? I know where it was when John Swafford was the ACC commissioner because that came down on me a few times.
Yeah.
And that football was going to be promoted and promoted heavily. All I thought about when I saw the Virginia Duke rivalry was, thank God I don't have to promote that ACC title game.
And which is also the reason there was nobody in the stands.
Exactly. So, you know, I think the ACC needs to do some soul searching here for their football product because, you know, your brand names are Clemson and Florida State, and they struggled
You're
to even make a bowl.
a funny
And
man.
your other brand name, Virginia Tech, has just gone to hell the last few years. And maybe they've righted the ship with James Franklin coming aboard.
But you're going to
Uh,
rehire your old defensive coordinator. Okay, yeah, sure.
yeah. So, you know, to me, those are the larger issues. Are these, you know, these conference championship games? I mean, if the loser's getting in, it's just for seeding, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, is it gonna morph into what we see in the major conferences with their conference basketball tournaments? Because some are like, okay, we made the semifinals. We're not going to get. We're already a number one seed. Let's just coast, I guess. I don't know. I mean, you know, we know it happens in those tournaments. If they bow out, that's hey, we get some extra days rest heading into the NCAA tournament. Um, I think maybe for maybe it's worth it for the group of fives to keep those championship games going. But again, all it is serving is to make sure that there's enough money in the bank for everybody to get their raises and the soccer championship is funded or whatever. I mean, that's what these games are now.
Yeah, you could really make the argument that they're not for the players. They're I guess you could say they're for the coaches because there's bonuses involved, bonus money involved. It's not really anything for the fans other than another game to buy tickets and travel to.
Mhm.
It's there for the schools and the
It's a big
conference to
party.
make money. And guys, before we get too deep into this, I want to mention word just came in that
You got your breaker, Cohen?
yep, that Notre Dame has declined to play in a bowl game
Yep.
after missing the playoff.
Yep.
Do you agree or disagree with that?
I think it's petty.
It's a sign of the times, guys. Because Iowa State and Kansas State have already declined bowl invitations, and
Right,
they're getting
but that
fined
was
heavily by the
well,
Big 12. And I understand they had coaching changes, and Iowa State, either Iowa State and Kansas State had personnel issues. They had so many injuries that they didn't have enough to field a practice. So I understand that. But Notre Dame, I understand it. Why bother? Players are opting out of bowl games and to help their professional
hey
aspirations and
man,
not get hurt.
I lived that a couple years ago. So they went ahead and played anyway. They got boat raced by Georgia, meaning Florida
Oh,
State.
I understand.
So I mean, look, yeah, there was no
Sign of the times, guys. Sign of the times.
Notre Dame. Yeah,
I mean, Notre Dame
And they've
has
probably set a
called the
precedent now.
shots.
yeah.
Yeah, Notre Dame's been calling the shots for 100 years, and now that
Yeah.
there's enough money around that they don't have the ability to do that, they're not happy about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad for college football that Notre Dame doesn't have that sort of power anymore. because
No,
it's
but I still think they have a legitimate argument to be in the playoff.
I would have had them
So
in.
do I.
I would have had them in on brand name. That would have been my number one. As we have our conversations. If I'm programming a television miniseries with these 12, I'm putting Notre Dame in it. I'm putting Miami in it. I'm putting Alabama in it because you're going to hate watch or you're going to watch. And so to have it either way, you're going to program those teams. You're going to program those heels to be a part of this program. That your mini series. You need all the villains lined up, or you need all the heroes that are there. And so to have all of these heavyweights there, but now Notre Dame basically is just sitting there and they're taking their ball and going home instead of uh, doing what Florida State did a couple years ago. I get it. You've got X number of windows and players going here and there and everywhere. Fine. Look, I get it. I still think it's petty.
And
I still think it's petty.
it's petty, but they're pissed that Tulane and James Madison got in,
Yep.
Well,
and
that's
they
a them
didn't.
problem. That's
Yep. And speaking of Tulane and James Madison, those are the last two teams in the field. Tulane, they go 11-2 on the regular season. They win their Conference USA championship, and they're a really, really good story. Although they've got a coach who's going to essentially be a lame duck coach, John Summerall, the future head coach of the Florida Gators. He's still coaching the Green Wave and will through the playoff.
And
good
when
on.
you look at Tulane, go ahead, John. Go ahead, John.
Just I'm literally. It's like good on him. You're going to go back there, and Bob Chesney's going to coach, and Bob Chesney is. I guess he needs a private jet or something because he's going to UCLA Monday, getting all that squared away. I guess he's going to go win the press conference. Then he's going to fly back because we know that flying from Lipstick City to Harrisonburg, Virginia, that's a direct flight. For a lot of. So Bob Chesney is going from one end of the planet to the other, taking care of two programs at the same time, and John Summerall doing the same thing. But in the SEC, apparently, if you want to leave, basically it's like don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out.
Yeah.
Going from one school to the other. But no, I give Chesney full credit for doing this. I give Summerall full credit for doing this, and their institutions for hanging with them.
Tulane, if we're going to go the quad one or quad two or whatever win system, look, they got wins at Northwestern and at Duke. So they have a good resume to be able to, and I guess they're the highest ranking group of five team. So they've checked all the boxes to get into the playoff and to face the Ole Miss. James Madison is the one that I'm scratching my head over as to why they're in the tournament and Notre Dame isn't.
Yeah.
Because I don't see any quality wins on their resume. And they played one power forward team, Louisville, and lost. It was fairly close, but not really that close. So I don't understand that that's a good story. My take on this is they're desperate for a Cinderella team like the men's basketball tournament.
Then
I've
what's
said
Tulane?
all along that it'll never happen in the football tournament because the guys are just too fast and too big. And I think that's what's going to happen to JMU when they get up to Eugene, Oregon. Yeah, they're going to hang with them for a half maybe, but when midway through the third quarter, they're going to be worn down trying to chase much faster Oregon Duck players. And then all of a sudden they've just worn down because you got bigger players knocking you down. And that's the one I just don't get. Why would you want, I guess, the Cinderella story over Notre Dame? That's the only thing I could think of. Because a Notre Dame Oregon matchup in Eugene, you talk about epic numbers. I mean, I would be locked in.
Yeah.
I mean, JMU got in because they were ranked, correct? Because
Yeah, they were
ranked.
Yeah. I'll.
But again, look at their resume. Yes, they're the conference champion. But look at the resume. Who'd they beat?
Yeah, I wanted to finish on Tulane. Their quarterback, Jake Retzlaff, was the quarterback at BYU last year.
Yeah. The
And
Jewish quarterback at BYU.
Yep, that's the guy. That's a guy with some bigger game experience. He will not be intimidated by the scope of what they're doing in playing Ole Miss. And their defense has gotten stronger as the season's gone on. I don't know that Tulane's going to beat Ole Miss, but I think they got a puncher's chance.
Ole Miss is going to be pissed off.
Mhm.
They're going to be motivated. They've gone through a lot in the last couple of weeks. And do they think they're going to take it out on Tulane? We'll see. The Cinderella slippers should be on Ole Miss,
And
to be
it
honest
may
with
be.
you.
But are they though?
Well, not technically, but when you've gone through a coaching change and when you're trying to play for your national title, the only equivalent I can think of is in men's basketball when Michigan won the national title in '89 when Bill
Don't remind
Frieder
me of
Yeah,
that.
Steve Fisher and
left
Bill
and
Frieder.
Steve Fisher takes over and they run the table with Glenn Rice and Rumil Robinson in that group. That's the only thing. That's the only precedent I can think of in any sport where that's happened, and they won a national title. Now, I'm not saying Ole Miss is going to run the table and win it. It'd be a hell of a story if they did, but you know, I I, I wouldn't be one to be that team that faces them in the first round, especially in Oxford, because it's going to be ripe in there.
It could go one of two ways. What you just described could happen, or they could just roll over, but you're not going to know until you know. Um,
Can
yeah,
I throw out one more concept to answer Wilkie's question about JMU? I mean, the reason they got in is because the ACC didn't have a ranked team win the title. Now, if Notre Dame really wanted to state their case, they could be an ACC football member and run the table
They
in that
practically
league.
are. They played
Yeah,
five
but
ACC
they're not.
teams.
No, but they're not. So if they really wanted that, if they
Well,
were in the league officially, they could have run the table if they're that good and win the title, and they would be in instead of JMU.
that's
and I,
some soul searching Notre Dame's going to have to do.
and I
Yeah.
suspect had Virginia won that game against Duke, Virginia's in, Tulane's still there,
And
but
James.
I think Alabama's probably not there.
No, I think they find a way. I think James.
Yeah, they
I
find a
think, I
way.
think
And
James
James
Madison.
Madison is definitely not there.
I think if Virginia wins against Duke, I think Virginia's in. I think James Madison is out. I think your order. I think that then Tulane would be your 12. Even though I could make a case for Tulane being an 11 and having other folks drift in. But for me, I would have had, like I said, I would have had Miami in. I would have had, uh, I would have had Alabama in. I would have had Notre Dame in on branding only. Like I said, if I'm Brandon Tartikoff, those three are in for me. Boom.
Talking about a guy who's dead too.
Oof.
Still, it's still, he's still programming from beyond the grave. I mean, seriously. I mean, you go into any office with a glass, hermetically sealed glass room with a long, equally glass table and a bunch of chairs around it. And you sit there with 19 TV monitors around. If I'm programming my network, I'm having all three of them in there somehow. But if
Yeah.
Virginia wins on Saturday night, I don't think we're having this discussion
Oh
about
no.
Tulane and James Madison.
Nope.
I think that it gets messed around a little bit, but not as poorly as it was this time around.
Okay,
And
guys.
Virginia would be a dominant story in this tournament because of what Tony Elliott has done in the last couple of years after having players murdered and that program being at the lowest point ever and building it up to where they were in the ACC title game. So, to me, they would have been a great story if they were in the playoff. And, it's too bad that they couldn't get it done in Charlotte last night.
Guys, this brings me to the last part of the show here as we kind of wind things down. Who are your winners in the first round?
Chalk.
Anybody?
Go ahead, Fox.
I have a hard time believing they're going to allow Oklahoma to beat Alabama, but
Allow.
Okay.
Yeah, see, the same TV programmer that I have in my hermetically sealed glass room with the 19 monitors, that's the guy talking to Sly about allowing things to happen.
yeah, I think 5, 6, 7, and 9 hold in the first round. Even though I like Oklahoma and the way they play.
I think Oregon wins, and it's not even close.
Yeah.
Alabama, Oregon is going to be a classic. Thank God the game's on grass. I hope it's blustery cold in Norman. It usually is in late December. And I hope it's a 17-14 type of game. But I see the Sooners pulling it off. I'll have some family members that'll be ecstatic if that happens. Ole Miss and Tulane. Look, I like Ole Miss in this game. Not necessarily dominant, but they're going to have so much emotion. And while Tulane's a good football team with a good quarterback, I think the emotion is going to be too much for them to overcome. And so Ole Miss moves on. Texas A&M and Miami is so intriguing on all sorts of levels here. In College Station, A&M's coming off a loss against their arch rival. Um, the U's coming in, uh, not the ACC champion, but representing the ACC. They feel slighted a little bit. Um, I think this is probably of the four games in the first round. This is the one that has the potential of being a classic. I got to go with A&M simply because they're hosting the game in College Station. I don't bet against the Mike Elko defense. They are fantastic, and you got a great quarterback matchup as well. I'm going to go with A&M simply because they're in College Station hosting it.
Yeah, I like Oregon over JMU. I don't think it's going to be too particularly close either. Um, I like Oklahoma over Alabama. I think Oklahoma's defense is the best unit on the field between the two teams, and that'll be
I
enough
don't
to
want to
get
know about their units, sir.
them the win. Uh, Tulane Old Miss to me smells like a potential surprise. I'm not going to go on record as saying that Ole Miss loses to Tulane, but I think this one's going to be a nail biter.
Take the over, I think.
There's going to be a lot of points scored. I agree there. Um, I'm going to be really curious to see how this one's played. And if I have to watch one game out of those four, that's probably the one that I would watch. And your final matchup, yep, I have to agree with Wilkie. I like A&M over Miami. I don't think Miami's been consistent enough. Carson Beck's a good quarterback, but I don't know that he's a great quarterback. And in order for Miami to win that game, he's going to have to be a great quarterback. And that'll set up some interesting matchups in the quarterfinals, guys, but we have plenty of time to get to those because they're however many weeks down the road.
74.
New Year's weekend.
Yes. And right now, as we speak, it's only December 7th in the afternoon.
Yeah.
You got anything else you want to jump on or add here before we kind of wrap things up?
Illinois State, upset of upsets.
Over North Dakota State.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Only one of the Dakota teams made it out of the round in the FCS / Division One AA tournament this past weekend. We will be efforting Illinois State for the College Football X later this week. And also, we will be efforting as well John Carroll. Everybody was running smack on John Carroll for changing conferences and such, that they're running away from Mount Union. So what do? Goal line stand later than late to win 10-7 at Mount Union at Kears. And the perennial power in Division III gets to watch the rest of the tournament by themselves.
Powerhouse team.
We'll be chasing John Carroll, and we'll be chasing Illinois State for the X this week.
Stay tuned for the X midweek here on the OSG Sports Podcasting Network. Guys, what do you say we give it a wrap here? We've talked long enough. Lots of things to discuss. When we come back next week, we'll talk more about bowl games. There's some interesting matchups there to talk about, and some matchups that why is anybody going to go? But we'll get into that next weekend. We'll have plenty of time since we've got another couple of weeks before the first round of the playoffs. For the entire OSG Sports team, I'm OSG Phil. Thank you for tuning in this week. We will be back with more next week. Until then, enjoy and bye-bye.
Please like and subscribe and yell at your friends because of what we just talked about.